Jai Atmeshwar, Samarpan Yog of the Himalayas, Part 1, Episode 29. I could not understand what Gurudev wanted to tell me yesterday. I could not understand what he was referring to, and I prayed in my mind, Gurudev, let me understand through your grace all that you wish to make me understand. Then again, today was the full moon day, and during the full moon night, Gurudev used to have a special program of an all-night meditation. In the evening, I went to the river again with Gurudev. Today, he had come out late from his hut, and that is why it got dark whilst we were on our way. On the way to the river, we had to cross a path of large rounded stones. We could see the river water shining at a distance, but we had not yet reached it. Our feet were sliding over the rounded stones, and the sound of the sliding stones disturbed the peaceful atmosphere. By the time we reached the river water, night had already fallen, and the moonlight was shining all over the water as if the river was made of silver. The water was quite cold, and as we started moving into the river, the water started becoming colder. Then, after a while, when the cold started to increase, Gurudev went and stood in the middle of the water, and so I went and stood with him. One had to be careful whilst standing there, otherwise the flow of the water would push him forward. It was only with great difficulty that I could stand steady. But as soon as I stood still, the fish in the water started gathering around us. Gurudev was saying, don't pay attention to the fish. Don't pay attention to the cold. Try to move your attention inside your body. Then he continued, first, put the palm of your left hand on your navel. Then, place the palm of your right hand on it and experience that through the medium of your hands, you are concentrating your chitta on your navel. Then, I found that slowly some vibration started at my navel. In the experience this time, I could feel a cold touch. I could feel a cold ball of ice rotating on my navel. Slowly, these vibrations started increasing, and when I opened my eyes, I found outside that a ring was coming out of Gurudev's navel and was ending at my navel. Then another ring would come out and end on my navel. The ring was moving very slowly, and its subtle sensitivity could be experienced. This process was going on continually, and by now I could not even feel the cold, as I myself had become completely cold. The whole body seemed to have turned into ice, and therefore I could not experience the outside cold. The fish were still gathered around my feet, and I could feel that, but I was not in a state to do anything about it. This same process continued throughout the night. The moonlight was shining all over the river and looked very beautiful. Perhaps I was getting a beautiful experience both inside and outside and experiencing happiness. It was going to be morning, but Gurudev was still standing in the river. He was not clearly visible, and only the light of his aura indicated his presence. Then, as it started getting brighter, his aura started to become cloudy. Later, he came out of meditation and said, "Come on, have your bath." Then both of us bathed there. After bathing, Gurudev offered arghya, that is, poured water as an offering before the sun, and I also did the same. I felt very happy and experienced an inner peace within myself. I felt that now I had acquired everything in life and experienced a kind of satisfaction. Gurudev was also quiet. Then we started back towards the hut, and Gurudev was silent on the way. Here I was, remembering the experience I had last night. How difficult it is to give up one's identity, and how easily Gurudev performed that difficult task. It is really a reflection on Gurudev's greatness that he could perform this task so easily. He must have acquired this after undergoing so much spiritual devotion, and since then, he had preserved the experience for so many years. The experience which he had preserved with so much care, so easily, he then transferred smoothly to me. I found myself blessed to have got the presence of such a Gurudev. I was very happy. Next morning, I was sitting on the river bank. I was thinking about yesterday's experience which I had gone through in Gurudev's presence. Spirituality is a very special subject. People have taken up the subject of the soul for several years, and those who have worked on this subject continually have studied it and have gained considerable knowledge. They have chosen this subject and studied it, and by studying this subject and obtaining the experience, they have also obtained living knowledge. Then they have distributed the knowledge of experiences to others, and it has grown because they have distributed it. Thus, there are 3 steps. First, to obtain knowledge from one's guru and practice it. And secondly, after practicing it, to obtain the experience of that living knowledge for oneself. And thirdly, to distribute the experience. Those who perform all these 3 tasks are called spiritual gurus. This is a subject for inner soul knowledge. That is why one will have to become a soul in order to obtain this knowledge. One will have to reach the level of the soul and accept the medium before us as a soul. The person who gives knowledge at the physical level is called a teacher, but one who gives knowledge at the soul level is called a guru. The work of both these people is similar. The teacher gives knowledge at the intellectual and physical level. The guru is also a teacher, but he bestows inner soul knowledge. That is why one has to accept him as a soul in order to absorb that soul knowledge, and that is why he is called a guru. Just as there is a mathematics teacher to teach you mathematics, there is a language teacher to teach you languages, and a science teacher to teach you the sciences. Similarly, there is a spiritual teacher to acquire spiritual knowledge. He is called a guru. Spiritual knowledge is the knowledge from which man gets a spiritual experience. After man has obtained physical and intellectual knowledge, he desires to obtain soul knowledge. This is the best type of knowledge. As long as one does not gain physical and intellectual knowledge, one does not even have the desire to obtain spiritual knowledge. All this is at the level of human beings. It takes place at the physical level, mental level, and then at the spiritual level. Knowledge, which has been obtained at the physical level, can be exhibited, and the knowledge one has obtained at the intellectual level can also be displayed. But spiritual knowledge cannot be displayed, as it is not possible to exhibit it. It can only be experienced. One can develop an ego because of knowledge that one has obtained at the physical level, because that knowledge is at the physical level, and ego is also at the physical level. That is why knowledge one has obtained at the physical level nourishes one's ego. Similarly, knowledge one has obtained at the intellectual level also nourishes one's ego, because ego is present with one's intellect. A person obtains knowledge at the physical level and then displays it. He similarly obtains knowledge at the intellectual level and displays it. And even after performing both these acts, he does not find complete joy. When he expresses a desire to obtain knowledge not for display but to know himself, then he goes within himself. Then his journey for inner knowledge commences, and only then does his journey towards the soul begin. Thus, because of his desire to know himself, man begins the journey of his life, and then he finds his path. That path is the spiritual guru. That is the path which is stationary. And when the time comes for souls to attain spiritual happiness, they reach that path. That is why Gurudev must have called me a path yesterday, a path which is 800 years old. Yesterday, he explained the purpose of my life to me. He introduced me to myself. He gave me a vision of my soul. But this could only happen in my life after I had found knowledge at the physical level and had displayed it. When I had obtained knowledge at the intellectual level and displayed it, but I did not find satisfaction in my life. I still had the feeling that I wanted to acquire something and realized that it could only happen at the inner level. Therefore, this inner journey commenced. I felt as if there was a hidden feeling of ego behind the display of each kind of knowledge. Somewhere deep in a corner within myself, there was a desire to inform someone, to display it before someone. I started to feel that my life itself was like a movie. In my childhood, I was interested in wrestling, and that is why I had asked the instructor to make me a knotted charm to wear around my neck. The knotted thread is tied by a champion whom one wishes to make one's guide. I learned various tricks in wrestling according to the instructor's guidance, and I observed my diet and exercised and improved my exercises also according to his instructions. Every day, my instructor made me carry out the exercise of digging out soil in the wrestling arena and then leveling it. The soil in the wrestling pit used to be red colored, and after I undertook these tasks, my attention would go to my body. How sinewy my thighs have become, how strong my arms are becoming, and I was able to finish the tasks in such a short time. On my way home from the wrestling center, if someone noticed the red mud on my face and asked me, "Have you just left the wrestling pit?" I would feel very proud. Several years passed, and I made my body strong and symmetrical. I used to exhibit my body either knowingly or unknowingly from time to time, and that display inflated my ego. When I crossed over to the side of the opposing team whilst playing Kabaddi, Kabaddi is an Indian outdoor game played mostly by boys with two games. When I crossed over to the side of the opposing team whilst playing Kabaddi, the players from that team would run scared on seeing my muscular haunches, and seeing their fear made me feel very joyful. Later, the instructor told me, "Now that you are trained and ready, try wrestling too." Then I would enjoy going to different wrestling pits with my instructor and wrestle with different champions. My instructor purposely made me wrestle with champions who were bigger and stronger than I was. That is why I had to work very hard in order to win, and I slowly found a way out of that too. I had become expert in two varieties of wrestling: the scissor hold variety of wrestling and the langi variety, which is held in a mud pit on a large scale with big crowds present. In those bouts, I would catch hold of the wrestler in front of me and manage to win the match. At that time, my instructor used to take me to different wrestling competitions. My goal in life was to become the best wrestling champion ever. My instructor also had great faith in me. He used to tell me, "One day you will become a great wrestling champion in this country." In this way, behind the physical level of knowledge was the hidden purpose of exhibiting it. When I obtained this physical knowledge and scaled the topmost peak, I suddenly began to feel that this is not your path. You have to go elsewhere. Then I felt, if this is not my path at all, and I should not carry on with it, what was the point of continuing? Then I heard a voice telling me from within, "Search for that path on which you have to walk." Thus, the knowledge which I had obtained at the physical level was not the final knowledge. Then I slowly started paying more attention to my studies. I graduated and completed my post-graduation. I took up a job and used my intellectual knowledge in my job. At my workplace, I was called honest but lacking in experience. My employers used to tell me, "One can get experience with time, but a person should be basically honest." Getting the work done through people who are better than oneself is the art of management. I had discovered that art, and I used to take care of even the junior-most people working under me. I remember that once I had gone with a peon named Ram Prasad to a factory to conduct an audit. Actually, that factory had closed down, but I had to take a look at the old accounts. Around lunchtime, I took the car and reached the city. And on returning from the city to the factory, I bought a new lunchbox and carried lunch in it for Ram Prasad. He never forgot that meal in his life and always said, "That day, you remembered to bring lunch for me even in that barren place." That is why every worker was very happy whenever I arrived. I obtained experience in my job with honesty. I was always ready to do all types of work. My search continued even while I was working. I always used to visit temples to search for someone. I was searching for a living guru because only some living guru knew about the first stage of my destination. I still remember how after office hours in Kolkata, I would go down to the various ghats, that is landing places on the river Ganga near Howrah Bridge. For hours at a time, I would stare at the river water and think, sometime, somewhere, this water will definitely meet the river. Somewhere, there must be an ocean. When will some ocean-like guru enter my life and I can go to him and find peace. On the bank of the river, a holy man used to sit with a lighted fire in front of him. In the evening, laborers would gather around him and sing devotional songs. I kept watching those holy men. Sometimes they would look at me, but that was our only acquaintance. Jai Atmeshwar. We'll conclude our book reading for today over here. Thank you for listening.